It's that time of the year. Baseball season is about to start, and we will be giving you a look into the top storylines, award favorites, and our preseason picks for the postseason. Today on Lions Lineup. Welcome to our Major League Baseball preview edition of Lions Lineup. I'm Joe Basile, and I'm joined today by Matt Merton and Joe Caputo. Well, spring training is over, and opening day is just around the corner. All 30 MLB teams have set their rosters and are entering the season with high expectations. There are a lot of storylines around the league entering opening day, and we'll now take a look at the top three. The New York Yankees have had their injury problems, losing Curtis Granderson, Mark Teixeira, and possibly Derek Jeter for at least the first week of the season. Granderson and Teixeira will be out for much longer. Guys, obviously this is going to be a very big storyline for the Yankees. They are going to have a lot of issues trying to replace these guys. They got the likes of Juan Rivera, the recently acquired Vernon Wells. It's going to be very, very difficult to replace those three big contributors.
Well, let me just say this. When your GM has to go out and try to get Chipper Jones out of retirement, you clearly have a lot of struggles. This is a team that, when you look at the starting lineup, you said missing Granderson, A-Rod, Teixeira, Jeter. It's not that offensive powerhouse it was last season. It was, it's like you got Youkilis at third, you got Hafner in DH. It's going to be, especially with the way the AL East has become a lot more competitive, it's going to be a really tough year for the Bombers.
You know, as a Yankee fan, this is probably the most excited for a season that I have been in recent memory.
Really?
Because you know what? Instead of the Yankees going into a season as the odds-on favorite to make the World Series out of the American League East, that high-powered offense, they can never get clutch hits, anything like that. They're going to have to play a whole different style of baseball this year. And this is a year that they needed to have if they want to turn around the franchise from their reputation that they've had for the past 10 years of being that choking, overpaid team. Yeah. And this is exactly how they needed to do it. They needed all their old guys to get hurt, and they needed to have to scrap together a team that's going to have to get key hits, they're going to have to lay down bunts, they're going to have to steal bases, they're going to have to play good defense, and they're going to have to pitch. Those are the ways you win baseball games. They're going to finally be forced to do.
Yeah, but look at the people they're looking to replace it. They got Vernon Wells, who has really struggled offensively in the last few years. You got Travis Hafner DHing. Pitching's been also a bit of an if with Sabathia coming off of surgery. Phil Hughes going to be starting on the DH. You got Mariano Rivera coming back to start the season for his final season.
I'm not really concerned about their pitching staff at all. I'm not, because they have six guys in their staff that are very capable of starting. David Phelps, I'm really excited to see what we get from David Phelps, because he is a very good young talent that he's going to get the opportunity now that Hughes is on the DL. I'm confident in the way CC Sabathia will bounce back from the surgery. And Hiroki Kuroda pitched well last year. I'm expecting another solid year out of him. And then you got Ivan Nova, who had a bad year last year, but he's got the talent. The pitching staff's not the issue, and they got a good bullpen as well. If they can keep these games close, it's going to be fun to see how they're going to try to manage and win games with situational hitting and stolen bases, things like that.
Well, I mean, first off, I just disagree with you a little bit on Ivan Nova. I think last year was a little bit more accurate of what the Yankees should expect to get out of him than his rookie campaign a couple of years back. But besides that, it's going to be very tough for the Yankees, because now they have to deal with not only just, the Red Sox, which is all they had for all those years. Now they've got the Rays, who have been a very good team for the past 5 years. You've got the Toronto Blue Jays, who have emerged this offseason through a whole slew of acquisitions as being one of the best teams in the American League East. It's going to be very tough for the Yankees to compete with the rest of the teams in their divisions. The Baltimore Orioles, to a certain extent. there's a lot more competition, a lot more parity in that AL East now than there ever was in the past 10 years when they were that underachieving team. And I don't know if this team, as it's constructed with the age of the players, all the question marks, guys coming back from injuries, are they going to be the same? Are they not going to be the same? Who knows? It's going to be very difficult for them to have a decent season. The pieces are there. It could happen if everything falls into place right. I just don't know if that'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying the Yankees are going to be a bad team. Like, certainly not to like the extent the Marlins or the Astros are. It's just by their usual standards, it's really not up to snuff.
Well, by their usual standards, this is not what you're used to seeing from the Yankees.
Because not only did are they losing A-Rod and all those, they also lost Swisher to free agency. They lost Martin to the Pirates. It's going to be a really tough year to even get within playoff contention for the Yankees.
But just to say one more thing before we go to break, the guys that they lost also not the clutchest hitters in baseball either. So you got the overachieving guys that don't come through in the clutch. Now you don't have those guys anymore.
Moving on to our next two big storylines of the offseason, we have the Phillies and some of the NL East. Of course, the Phillies last year had a bit of a down year. They struggled through some injuries. Cliff Lee didn't pitch as well as everyone had expected. Of course, that's mostly due to a lack of run support because of some of the injuries to the lineup.
I'd say Cliff Lee, speaking as a Phillies fan, I will say that last year was a major disappointment, especially coming off that whole streak of division wins. I think it was still high expectations. And like you said, with Cliff Lee, he pitched well. It just was the offensive support was not there, which has pretty much been an issue with the Phillies for the last few years. And also, the other main issue, which kind of also goes with the Yankees, injuries and age. This is a team that's also getting really old, as much as I hate to say it.
Hasn't it been 2 or 3 seasons since Chase Utley's been healthy the whole year?
Yeah.
Well, I made the same comparison. The Yankees this year kind of remind me of the Phillies last year. Going into the season with a lot of their offensive players injured, but they still had the good pitching staff, and they still have the good pitching staff going into this year. Cole Hamels is one of the best pitchers in the National League. I'm still confident in Cliff Lee, and Roy Halladay, a lot of people are concerned about him, but he only has to be a number 3 starter this year. So
but when you're paying him $25 million, you're paying him to be a number 1.
When I analyze divisions and teams, I don't take into consideration contract, because that's behind you. That's something on the backside that you're not going to be seeing on the field. It doesn't matter what Roy Halladay is going to be paid. He's a 3rd starter for this team, and that's how he has to. That's what all he has to accomplish is beat the 3rd starters on the opposing teams. I'm pretty confident in the Phillies this year. I actually am. I know you guys aren't, but the common theme on this whole show from me today is going to be I'm going to fall in love with teams with good pitching staffs, and I'm not so concerned about the Delman Young signing. I think that was a low risk, high reward.
It's very, very low risk, only a 1-year deal.
And the same thing for Michael Young. That's not much risk there either. And you got Ryan Howard, you got Chase Utley, you got Jimmy Rollins. I mean, this is still a formidable lineup with a good pitching staff. I don't know why everyone's so down on that.
Well, here's the reason why, and because for the past few years, the NL East has pretty much just been the Phillies' turf, with the Braves making a few runs here and there. The other teams have not really been in contention. Now, the Braves have also made a lot of improvements with the Uptons and Julio Teheran. And the Washington Nationals also had a really big breakout year last year. They also improved on their team. So it's not going to be as easy for the Phillies to really get up there. The main thing is, which I think for the Phillies to really be successful and to make it within postseason contention, is they have to stay healthy. And for me, I just don't really see that happening. If either Utley or Howard or Halladay goes down to injuries, the Phillies will probably struggle quite a bit. And the way that the Nationals and Braves are, it would be a tough hill to climb.
Well, I'm going to take a couple of things that both of you guys said. Ryan Howard has been in a pretty steady decline since about 2008. His OPS has gone down every year since then. He's not the same player that was hitting 45, 50 home runs a year. He's not that same player anymore. He's still an above-average hitter in the National League, but as far as first baseman, you can definitely do a lot better than Ryan Howard at this point, and the same goes for Jimmy Rollins. He's not the same player he once was. He can't really be kind of the anchor, the table setter in this lineup anymore. They need to look for someone else to do it. I don't know who that's going to be. The Phillies don't even know who that's going to be.
But to be fair, this also isn't the World Series contender they once were either. So you're not looking for that kind of production from them anymore either.
Right.
All right, and moving on to our final storyline here of the offseason, it was the frenzy the spending spree went on by the Los Angeles Dodgers, their new ownership. Of course, they now have the highest payroll in all of baseball, eclipsing the Yankees over, I believe, $220 million for this upcoming season. Of course, Zach Greinke was their big prize free agent. Does this do enough to put them over the top in the NL West?
I'm not really positive on it because the Giants, they're going to be coming back with their big World Series winning roster. And as the Marlins have proved last year and so many other teams have, just because you spend the most in the offseason doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be at the top doing the big parade. It's going to be a toss-up for me. I do think they'll have enough to at least get into the playoff picture, but whether it's going to be for the big prize, I don't know. I'm not that confident.
Hearing the number that you say that the Dodgers are finally the highest paid team in baseball, eclipsing the Yankees brings a smile to my face because I'm sick and tired of hearing.
You're a fan of the $189 million plan?
I'm just sick and tired of hearing how the Yankees are the highest paid team year in and year out, and having them compared their wins compared to how much money they're being paid, whatever. Let's put that behind us, though. I think that the Dodgers are a very good team. I think that they really improved the pitching staff with Greinke. It's going to be interesting to see when he's able to come back from this injury. Mm-hmm. You don't like to hear about arm injuries coming off a huge contract that they just signed him to. But Clayton Kershaw is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Billingsley in the 3 spot, and then they just got the guy from Korea, Ryu, who is supposed to be a pretty good talent for them as well. So I really like how they solidified the starting pitching staff. And they're hitting. Of course, Hanley Ramirez also going to start the season on the DL, but they got Adrian Gonzalez, Carl Crawford's coming back from injury. I like how they're putting together this team, and this probably will be the best divisional race in all of baseball coming down the stretch between them and the Giants.
Yeah, and you also can't discount, they've also got Kempany here in the outfield, and they got Puig, the Cuban guy, waiting down in AAA. They could look to move one of their surplus outfielders to get him in if he hits well enough. He certainly looks like he's going to be very good. As far as some of the acquisitions they made, I'm right there with you. I like what they've done to shore up their pitching staff. I like Ryu from Korea. I think that they're going to be very good. It's going to be a very close race, like you said, one of the closer ones. I just like the experience of the Giants a little bit better. They've kind of been there a little bit more. And until you see how the Dodgers play on the field, I'd be reluctant to say that they're going to win the NL West, but they could make a run. I could be proven wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty much for any of these big spending sprees like they had, like the Blue Jays had this year. The main thing is
Marlins last year.
Marlins last year.
Well, the Marlins is a bit of a different situation because going into that spending spree, they were a much worse team than the Dodgers were going into this one. So the improvements that the Marlins made last year were, you're improving on a lower team. And you're going to maybe here, whereas the Dodgers were here, and their improvements could take them up to here.
That's a good point.
Right, and the main one more point before we go to break with Ryu is when you talk about foreign acquisitions, you tend to, at least with pitching, there tends to be a bit of a spectrum. At one end, you got like a Hideo Nomo or Yu Darvish who had outstanding rookie seasons. At the other end, you got Daisuke. And
Daisuke had a couple of good seasons still.
Yeah, he did. But he's also got hurt and struggled a bit. So when it comes to foreign acquisition, you don't really know how they're going to hold up.
Shen had a nice season last year for the Orioles.
Right.
It happens.
It's one of those like wild card things.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be right back, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the early favorites for all of the major awards in both leagues. But first, we have a trivia question for you. BJ and Justin Upton both joined the Atlanta Braves this offseason, becoming the first brothers to play Major League Baseball on the same team in several years. Who was the last pair of brothers to play on the same team? The answer after this. Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you to name the last pair of brothers to play on the same Major League Baseball team before the Uptons. The answer is Adam and Andy LaRoche on the 2008 Pittsburgh Pirates. Now we'll be moving on, and we'll take a look at the early favorites for all of the major awards. First up, the National League Comeback Player of the Year. Matt, who do you have?
All right, well, there's definitely several good choices here. My pick's going to be Troy Tulowitzki of the Colorado Rockies. He actually, before he got injured last year, he had a pretty good season, and he's also had several good seasons before. His main problem has also been injuries, but I figure this year, with the help that playing Colorado has, he'll be able to make a good comeback. I feel he's the best all-around shortstop playing in the league right now. So
I don't know how you could ever pick against Joey Votto. He is the best hitter in baseball, and it's not even close. You look at his advanced numbers; they're insane. He had a 450 on base percentage when he got hurt last year. He hit one pop-up to the infield before he got hurt last year, and he pulled only 2 foul balls into the stands before he got hurt last year. He was asked if he remembers the 2 foul balls he's pulled into the stands, and he said yes. He said he was very disappointed about those 2. He knows what he's doing at the plate. His timing is absolutely impeccable, and when you look into the depth of his numbers, the fact that he struck out less times than he walked the year he won the MVP and last year was absolutely insane to me. Only 2 other guys did that last year. It was Joe Mauer and Prince Fielder. I could just keep rambling off the numbers, but Joey Votto is going to win.
I agree with you. It's got to be Joey Votto if he can stay healthy the whole season. He was he's a machine at the plate. Like you said, he was a on-base percentage of 450. That is out of this world for anyone not named Barry Bonds when he was getting walked 3 times a game. Joey Votto was one of the best hitters when he won the MVP, and he's only gotten better. He's gotten more patient at the plate. He swings at less balls out of the zone than he did back then. He's still got very good power. He was hitting, I think, 372 last year also. And Joey Votto, he's got to be your comeback player of the year vote. He's going to be fantastic.
As long as he stays healthy.
Provided that he stays healthy, he's going to have a fantastic season. Now we'll move on. Guys, who are your picks for AL comeback player of the year? Matt, we'll start with you again.
All right, well, I know this might sound a little hypocritical since I said the Yankees are going to struggle, but I'm going with Mariano Rivera from the Yankees because after last year he had that ACL tear at Kansas City, and he's coming back. He announced this is going to be his final season, so I figure no matter how, even if like you said, the games get close, he's going to try his best. Even if he doesn't get to that same elite level, I still think he'll do well enough that he'll be able to say, "I went out my way. I went out with a bang."
You got to respect what Rivera is doing here. He said that if he hadn't gotten hurt last year, he would have retired at the end of last year. So he wants to go out on his terms, which is good. I'm going with Jacoby Ellsbury. This is another guy that was a candidate for MVP 2 years ago. He had an absolutely insane year. He hit about 320. He hit 30 home runs.
Yeah.
He stole nearly 50 bases. I mean, he was doing everything that year for the Red Sox, and he went down last year. But Ellsbury is a guy that before he got hurt was on his way to becoming one of the best players in baseball. He got set back a little bit last year, but I'm going to go Ellsbury to come back.
But unfortunately with Ellsbury, the thing is he wasn't just injured last year. He was injured 2010, 2009. He's just been chronically unable to stay healthy. Some of them have been freak injuries, but it's very hard, especially when you've got problems like he's had, the amount of problems that they might start reoccurring. If he could stay healthy, though, he's a decent pick. I'm going with Eric Hosmer for my comeback player of the year. Unlike the other 2, he didn't get injured. He just had a really bad season.
Awful.
But I think he is going to bounce back and have a very nice season, mostly because, and going to start throwing out some of the advanced things, he had a historically bad batting average on balls in play.
I love it. I love that stat.
That stat is, for those who don't know, it's kind of distributed around approximately 300, where the average will be right around the 300 mark, and then on either side of the extremes. He was all the way at the low side of the extreme. He hit 255 on balls in play. That is something that usually kind of comes back to some sort of career norm when it's that terrible. I think if you look at his minor league numbers, which have been, close to 300, even a little bit over 300, if they can come back to somewhere near that norm, that average, he's going to have a great season.
Let's not forget he's one of the top prospects in baseball when he came up. So he's got a bright
he had
future
an
ahead.
incredible rookie season 11. The Royals themselves have also improved rather immensely.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm expecting a big year out of the Royals, actually.
Yeah, you don't count them out. Don't count them out.
Too, so.
Yeah, Moustakas could have a very nice season also. We're going to move on. National League Cy Young Award winners. Matt,
this was also a good, tough one, but there's definitely several choices. But my choice is actually going to be Steven Strasburg of the Nationals.
Floating Steven Strasburg.
Yes, little mini Steven Strasburg there. I just felt that even before last year, before he got hit with the innings limit by Mike Rizzo, he was already on his way to a Cy Young caliber season after coming off of that surgery in 2011. He's his ceiling for potential is like this high. He could go places. I could see him winning like multiple Cy Young awards throughout his career.
If he can stay healthy.
If he stays healthy, that's the key word. But I think if he does stay healthy, he can pretty much go the distance. There, he's off the innings limit. He'll be with him throughout the whole year if he stays healthy. If they make it to the postseason, he'll be there with them, and that might be the key to getting them over that hump to a World Series title.
I bet you guys can't guess who my pick is.
Oh, gee, I don't
Strasburg?
Yeah,
well,
Strasburg.
I'm going to finally agree with you, Matt. I'm going to take Strasburg as well. Strasburg, like you said, before the innings limit was insane. The amount of strikeouts he gets for the amount of control he has is absolutely ridiculous. His strikeout to walk ratio is unbelievable. His strikeouts per 9 innings is one of the best in baseball, which brings his fielding independent pitching another advanced stat for him. Underneath his ERA, which is very difficult to do for a pitcher that has an ERA around 3.
Yeah.
So I really like Strasburg. I was disappointed when they sat him in the playoffs because I really wanted to see what the Nationals could do if he was at the top of their rotation along with Gio Gonzalez. But I like Strasburg to win the NL Cy Young this year. I love pitchers that strike guys out, and Strasburg's one of the best in baseball.
He certainly is. I'm going to agree with you and say it's going to be someone from the Nationals, but I got Gio Gonzalez winning the Cy Young this year. He had a very nice season in his first year in the National League last year. And much like you said, he doesn't walk a lot of guys. He strikes out enough, and he's able to induce a lot of weak contact, gets a lot of ground balls. And I just think that now his second year with the Nationals, a much better lineup, which always helps because the people who usually vote for these awards like to see things like wins. Whether or not they're the most accurate reflection of how good a pitcher is been debated. But I think Gio Gonzalez, the way he pitches, and with that lineup that the Nationals have, he could certainly rack up quite a few of those and perhaps take home the NL Cy Young. Strasburg's going to have plenty of years to get the Cy Young, and I think that's also his young age might work against him a little bit. People say, kind of like Trout last year with the MVP. Mm-hmm. They said, Trout will win plenty of MVPs in his career. Let's give it to Cabrera. I think that might end up being the case with the Cy Young this year.
Fair point.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to the other league, the American League, and your Cy Young Award picks, Matt and Joe.
All right, well, for me, with the American League and Cy Young, you pretty much got, it's going to be a 3-horse race between Felix Hernandez, David Price, and my pick, Justin Verlander of the Tigers. He's pretty much, in my opinion, the best pitcher in the game right now, and he's still really young. He could be the best pitcher for a while to come. He already had another Cy Young caliber season last year. The voting was very close between him and Price. Mm-hmm. I feel that, especially since the Tigers made a little more improvements with the lineup, he'll do just as good, and I feel that this will be another chance for him to get another award.
Well, you're talking about guys that don't get a lot of wins, and unfortunately, my Cy Young winner does not get a lot of run support. But I think the Mariners are going to be an improved team this year. They got a good young talent in Ackley and Seager. They went out and got Michael Morse. Jesus Montero's a year older. I like Felix Hernandez to win the AL Cy Young. He's very similar to Steven Strasburg's numbers in terms of his advanced stats. Great strikeout to walk ratio, great strikeout per 9. But I'm going to make one bold prediction right now.
Go right ahead.
Justin Verlander will not even be the best pitcher on his team this year.
Who
really?
will?
Max Scherzer.
Max Scherzer. As much criticism as Scherzer gets, a lot like you, I love Max Scherzer. He strikes out guys like
best strikeout per 9 in the MLB last year.
Insane strikeouts per 9 for him. I also like your pick of Felix Hernandez. I'm going to disagree and go with Verlander, but I think Hernandez was really one of the guys when he won the Cy Young, I believe, what was it?
2010,
when he only won 13 games, and people were like, "Oh, how could that possibly be?"
It's unfair.
That kind of started that a little bit of that debate. Kind of got that a little more, brought it to the forefront.
Yeah,
which really is a good thing. But I'm going with Verlander. Once again, it's one of those things where maybe he might not be the best pitcher, but trying to think of the ways that the people who will vote for the Cy Young will go. And you've got to think they might go towards Verlander.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on. National League MVP, the big one. Who do you got?
All right, well, I didn't pick him for comeback player, but I am going for Joey Votto for the MVP. I do think that last year, if he didn't...
How could he be the MVP, another comeback player?
Well... I just figured that with Tulowitzki, I figured he's had a lot more to come through with that whole string of injuries. With Joey Votto last year, his stats are good enough that if he didn't get injured, he probably would have been my choice for MVP, or at least up there with Posey. I figure if he stays healthy this year, like you said, he had the highest OBP last year. He'll probably stay around that same level, probably best hitter in the NL. And, of course, it is a tough one because you do have several other choices. You got Ryan Braun, Posey, Matt Kemp in there, but I'm going with Joey Votto.
Yeah, I already did my lobbying for Joey Votto, so I'm not going to do much more. One more stat I want to throw out there: OPS, on base plus slugging, one of the best in baseball, up near 1,000, which is
1,000 is absolutely elite.
There you go. So that'll be my one stat I throw out for this segment. Joe, you could.
All right, my pick for National League MVP. We'll get it up here in just a second. Differs from you, obviously. I'm not going Votto. With this one, I'm gonna change things up. I'm gonna say Ryan Braun gets the MVP this year. Again, I mean, he's had the controversy with the whole steroid thing and the biogenesis clinic he's been linked to. But last year he had this very similar allegations against him. He came back and was even better. I think the Brewers are going to have a good season this year, so that helps him out a little bit. Although, as we saw with A-Rod, the MVP can finish on a last place team. But I think Ryan Braun's going to have an excellent season. He's going to put up some very gaudy numbers up there in Milwaukee. It'll be close, but I'm calling Ryan Braun for this one. Moving on to the American League, who do you think's their MVP going to be?
All right, now I will say this. Last year, with the race between Trout and Cabrera, I went with Trout because I looked at the sabermetric stats. I figured he was a better all-around.
His WAR was the best.
Yeah, his WAR was astronomical. It was like one of the best WARs in recent memory. He was also like better all-around player in terms of base running and fielding. But however, having said that, I feel there might be a bit of a regression this year. I don't know if he'll be able to replicate those amazing numbers he had last year. Although I do think he would still be like a MVP caliber. I'm going with Miguel Cabrera this year, especially. Yeah, I know that sounds really weird. I do feel he is the best pure hitter in the game, even though his fielding stats leave a little bit to be desired. I just feel, especially with the Tigers having one of the better lineups in the league, and Cabrera's pretty much in his prime. He's going into his age, 29, 30 season?
I believe, let's see, he was 19 when he got called up in 2003, so he'll be
29. 29. So he's still in his prime. I don't know if he'll win the Triple Crown again.
I would doubt it.
But
I would doubt it.
I still think he'll definitely be like near the top.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against Cabrera. But as you said, I mean, a guy wins the Triple Crown, you can make the same argument that he's not going to put up as good of numbers as he did last year as well. I'm going Mike Trout. Yep. I'm always a Mike Trout guy. I know a lot of people are expecting a down year from him this year as a sophomore slump even. He put on some weight in the offseason, which is worrying some people. But I still think he's going to be okay. I saw him run in a couple preseason games. He doesn't look any slower than he was. Right. He's still probably the best fielder in baseball. He's going to be playing left field this year, which is going to be a little different. And he is one of the best hitters in baseball as well. I think he's the full package. He's your perfect all-around five-tool guy, and I don't see any holes in his swing or his advanced numbers that suggest, as some people are predicting, that he's going to have a down year this year. There's no evidence to prove that, so I don't know where that all is coming from.
Yeah, I agree with Mike Trout, unless there's something that he did during the offseason that drastically alters anything, which, like you said, watching him in spring training in the couple games I've got to see him in, doesn't look like there's anything different than there was last year. He's still going to be seeing pitches just as well, hitting them just as far, putting up maybe not the same numbers, but very similar numbers to what he's been doing in Angels lineup. That's only better. And once again, lineup protection is one of those things that can be debated whether it's actually a thing or not.
I think there's something there.
Yeah. But if there is anything to it, adding Josh Hamilton into the thick of that lineup only makes things easier for Mike Trout to put up big numbers, score a lot more runs, steal more bases. Pitchers are going to be paying more attention to the guy at the plate than to Mike Trout at first. He might steal 60 bases this year.
He should score 130, 140 runs this year.
Easily. He easily could do that. All right, we're going to wrap it up. When we come back, we'll be picking the division of the wild card winners, and as well as tell you who we think will make it to the Fall Classic. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now we'll move on to our picking of the division winners, and then, of course, our World Series predictions here on Lions Lineup. Joe Vasile, Matt Merton, Joe Caputo with you here today. We're going to start in the West of the National League. As you can see, Matt's got the Giants, Joe's got the Dodgers, and I also have the Giants.
Yeah, I think it is pretty much a two-horse race between the Giants and the Dodgers. I'm just going with the Giants because they're pretty much returning with their entire roster, pretty much their entire roster from last year intact. Hopefully, and they also got one of the better rotations than Matt Cain, also another potential Cy Young contender. You also got good young pitcher in Madison Bumgarner. Tim Lincecum's kind of it because he had a really off year last year, so we'll remain to be seen. But I still think they're one of the ones to beat.
Well, I think Tim Lincecum is a very big question mark and should be a concern of the Giants. You look at his fastball velocity last year compared to where it was when he was winning Cy Youngs. It used to be 93, 94 on average. Now last year I believe it was 88 to 89 miles an hour. He's lost 3 or 4 miles an hour.
You also look at the amount of line drives he was giving up. His line drive rate also went up. Lincecum's a question mark. I think that Vogelsong's a question mark too. I'm not sold on Vogelsong. I know he's had decent years in the past. He usually gets off to good starts, fades down the stretch a little bit. I think Bumgarner is a really good pitcher. I think he's the best on their team, honestly. But I like the top duo if Greinke can get healthy of Kershaw and Greinke, followed by the depth of their rotation. I think is better than the Giants' depth, and I like the lineup better.
Yep.
There's really no other than the fact maybe the Giants' bullpen's a little better. There's really no reason, no excuse for why the Dodgers should not win. But I understand your point, saying the Giants are going to win this division. But if the Dodgers don't win the division, I think it's a huge disappointment for them.
Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I absolutely think it would be a disappointment for the Dodgers. They're spending a lot of money to win the division. Like I said, my prediction could change as I see the Dodgers play more. But really what it comes down to, the reason why I picked the Giants over the Dodgers is just because I know what I'm getting out of this Giants team. We saw them last year. They won the World Series. I'm not quite sure exactly what we'll get out of this Dodgers team, but I think they've got the potential to win the AL West. Moving on to the Central now, I think we're all in agreement here. I believe we all picked the Cincinnati Reds to run away with the NL Central here. They got the best infield in the National League easily, between Frazier, Cozart at short, Brandon Phillips, and Joey Votto. And then they got Jay Bruce in the outfield who just does nothing but mash.
Yes, and don't forget...
Quite literally.
Yes, they also got another really strong rotation with Johnny Cueto, Matt Latos. They also got Aroldis Chapman, thankfully back in the bullpen.
Yeah, I believe he'll be in the closer's role.
Yeah, he's going to be ninth inning guy, and he was absolutely lights out last year, filling in for Ryan Madsen. And I think, and especially when you got Jonathan Broxton now going to be one of the setup men. This is going to be another really strong team.
I think that's an awesome move, keeping Chapman in the bullpen. I mean, you see way too many times, and obviously my mind always goes back to Jabba Chamberlain, but way too many times where teams insist on making pitchers that are excelling in the bullpen role starters. And why? I mean, bullpen is a closer is pretty much just as important as a third, fourth, or fifth starter to a team, if not more important. He's pitching. He has the potential to pitch every day if you needed him to. I think that Chapman belongs in the bullpen. I think that he excelled there last year. Why not? Why would you move him out of that role? So I love that move. Latos. He worries me. His control worries me. He's a little erratic at times. Cueto at the top seems like he's good enough, but I think this is more of a by default pick for me than believing in the Reds staff. I like their lineup, but I'm not a big fan of this division in general.
Yeah, it's kind of a weak division. I mean, I've got the Pirates picked to finish third in this division, and if you're picking the Pirates to finish third in a division, it's probably a pretty weak division.
They're improved.
Yeah,
they're improved, but you put them in the NL West, I don't think they're finishing third. You put them in the NL East, I don't think they're finishing third. But getting back to the actual point, what you were saying about Chapman, also putting him in the bullpen allows him to air it out a little bit more. He can throw it hard. He doesn't have to worry about conserving himself for multiple innings. He can come in and throw it 106 miles an hour and not have to worry about anything. Of course, it's a little hard to control. He can be erratic at times as well. And we're going to move over now to the NL East division we just teased a little bit. Matt, Joe, who you guys got?
All right, well, I'm going with the Washington Nationals. They had a really big breakout year last year. This year, they're coming back, certainly, and they're even better than last year. They're going to get a full year of Strasburg. They improved their bullpen, which ended up being their downfall in the postseason against the Cardinals with that last-minute rally, getting Rafael Soriano from the Yankees. They made improvements to the roster, keeping They re-signed Adam LaRoche and also got Denard Span from the Twins. I figure this. I mean, it is a two-horse race between the Nationals and the Braves, and maybe the Phillies. But I don't really. But that's like if everything goes right for the Phillies. But my money's on the Nationals.
Well, yeah, I agree. I like the Nationals. Strasburg is, it's very important to have that top guy, but they got the depth of the rotation as well. You look at Jordan Zimmerman in that 3 slot.
Right.
I mean, you can't find a much better
I'm
third
a very big
pitcher
fan
in
of
baseball than Jordan Zimmerman.
He could be a number 2 or 1
exactly.
on any other team.
It worries me a little bit. They lost Morse. He was hurt a little bit last year as well, so I don't know how much you're losing when you lose Morse, but he was still a very good hitter. Bryce Harper's getting a year older. You could expect a lot out of Bryce Harper this year. If Ryan Zimmerman stays healthy over at third, you're looking at a pretty solid lineup of a team that really, I don't think you can make an argument they got worse than last year. And you could probably make the argument since they got a year older, they even got better. I don't know how you could argue against Washington this year with the fact that they are probably the best young team in baseball.
I will try to argue against it.
Go ahead.
It took everything in me to not hate myself for picking the Atlanta Braves to win the National League East. I hate the Atlanta Braves. But that being said, I think they've got the division. They have the best outfield. The 2 Upton brothers plus Jason Hayward. The combination of getting BJ and Justin Upton this offseason, I think, puts them over the top of the Nationals. Last year, I believe the Braves won 93 games and the Nationals won 95.
90, I think it was like 97, 98.
97, 98?
Yeah, I think
okay,
it was 97.
I think that the 2 Upton brothers will be enough to push them more over the Nationals with the improvements of what they made. Plus, you've got Julio Teheran now coming up in the minors. I know he got rocked a little bit in his things, but I like him a lot. I like Mike Minor. I like Tim Hudson. He's not
one of those guys where you look at the Fangraphs numbers.
Yeah, but once again,
numbers,
he's
Tim
a guy
Hudson's
you've
not
got.
Exactly.
He's a guy that you're looking to be your 3rd or 4th starter.
I mean,
I mean, you want to throw out all this stuff about Halladay.
Well,
I'm throwing it out about
I would take Halladay over.
I think anyone would take Halladay over Tim Hudson at this point. But I still like that. They've got the best bullpen in baseball.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Between Kimbrel, Venters, O'Flaherty, and Jordan Walden, they got 4 guys who can come in and gas it up at 98 miles an hour and blow away any given player. They can match up between Venters and O'Flaherty, the 2 lefties. They can match up against any team's 2 biggest left-handed hitters. They can neutralize those threats late in the games in important situations. I think the Braves, they got put over the top with that. Yeah, they're losing Chipper Jones. Boo-hoo.
We'll get back to the Braves a little bit more when we discuss our wild card picks.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move on to the National League wild card. You won't have to wait long
Oh, there you go.
yeah.
to discuss more about the Braves with the wild card picks.
All right, well, my picks. I did pick the Braves for the wild card. I do think they are that strong, and I did also pick the Dodgers. I don't think they are that strong to take the division from the Giants. I do think they do have enough talent. It does depend on chemistry, but I do think they will at least get one of the wild card spots. I don't really think of any other team in there that could get it. I'm not maybe the Cardinals, but that's it.
All right. Well, I got the Giants, which is kind of the opposite of what you have. I have the Giants not winning the division but getting the wild card. And then I have the Philadelphia Phillies.
Wow.
Now,
Well.
I'm not sold on the whole Braves thing right now. First of all,
You
Dan Ugla.
think the Phillies are going to be
First of
better?
all, Dan Ugla at second is awful.
Yeah,
DJ
defensively,
Hold on,
Dan
hold
Ugla's
on.
a god-awful.
No, offensively as well.
Well, yeah, offensive.
Strikes out like 30% of the time.
He's very overrated.
DJ Upton, overrated, okay? Brian McCann starting the season on the DL, and he's had injury problems throughout his last few seasons. And the pitching staff, led by Tim Hudson, does not convince me. I'm taking the Phillies, at least their starting rotation.
I forgot about
over
Chris Medlin.
The Braves rotation. Okay, it's fair, but I'm still taking the Phillies rotation over the Braves rotation going into the year. And like I said, my
Phillies
common
rotation. Who's the Phillies' 4th starter?
Yeah, it's like John Lennon
John
and Kendrick.
Lennon and Kyle Kendrick.
Okay, but
those guys last year, I think John Lennon at one point was playing for the Long Island Ducks.
The top 2 Phillies pitchers cannot be matched by anyone on the Braves rotation. Anyone.
All right, well, now speaking as a Phillies fan, I will give you that. Lee and Hamels are. I would take Lee and Hamels over anyone on the.
This is a very silly argument against Hamels, and I realize that it's a very silly argument, but I'm going to say it anyway. Every time I've seen Cole Hamels pitch, it's been against the Mets. And every time I've seen Cole Hamels pitch,
struggles
the
with it.
Mets rock him.
and that's
I
pretty-
don't
yeah.
understand how Cole Hamels can be so
like you
good
said-
against every team
like you
except
said,
the
it's
Mets.
a silly
unless he's
argument.
just
Yeah.
not that good.
It's a silly argument.
It is a very silly.
It's silly.
Yes, it's
Hamels is probably he's probably a top 3 pitcher in that division. He's better than anyone on the Braves. It's not even close.
I will say this, that even though I do kind of like the rotation of the Phillies more, I'm not really a big fan of the offense. Like I said, they are a weak offensive team, and the bullpen, which I forgot to mention earlier, their bullpen struggled a bit last year. I mean, you do have Papelbon, another top-rate closer, but, well, at least in my opinion, he did good with
he's
the
not
first
bad. He's not bad.
season of Phillies, but this team, Mike Adams coming back from surgery, I do think he might be a better setup man than Bastardo. The rest, I'm not really that sold on, but we'll see how it goes.
Joe, who are your wild card picks?
My wild card picks: Nationals, Dodgers. Pretty much, I think we are all more or less in agreement that these are the general teams that'll be making the playoffs. You've got them winning divisions. I've got them being the wild card teams. They're in the playoffs. We've already said the reasons why. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more. All right, welcome back from that very short break. We're going to move on now to the American League division and wild card picks. We're going to start in the West.
Well, I think as you can see, we're all in agreement with Los Angeles Angels. They're
the best.
Yeah,
They're the best
Yeah,
in the
they made
division.
enough improvements. They got Josh Hamilton, who has had a bit of injury trouble here and there, and of course the issues with his past with the alcohol abuse. But I do think that with Mike Trout, Pujols, and Josh Hamilton, you have to hear the
Don't
most.
forget about Mark Trumbo.
And Trumbo too. You got some of the most feared power hitters in the entire league. You got Jared Weaver at the top of the staff. He's another perennial Cy Young contender in the West. My main concern is with the bullpen. They picked up Brian Madsen, who's missed the entire 2012 season with Tommy John surgery. He's also struggling a little bit with health, but with looking with that and with the A's and the Rangers, I figured that the Angels are the more complete team.
I think that
in the West.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that 2 through 4, you're going to have a little bit of a mix-up there. I'm not sold on the Rangers this year, and I really like the Mariners. So I'll warn you right now, are the Mariners your 2013 version of the A's? Because I think that there's a possibility.
They could be. They've
Maybe.
put some pieces together. I don't know if the pieces are just kind of. It just seems like they're acquiring first baseman and outfielders.
Yeah.
Kendry Morales,
Ibanez.
They got Ibanez.
Yeah, they
back?
got Ibanez.
Jason Bay.
Ibanez, Bay,
Michael Morse.
Mike Morse. All these guys. They got four
But they have
left-fielders.
a young, good infield,
But
though.
yeah,
do.
There's Ackley, Seager.
Yeah, Smoke has struggled a little bit. though.
And
Montero.
Yeah.
They've got pieces there. There's potential
Yeah.
on that team.
My
I think they might be a year or two away from being that kind of surprise team.
I can't wait to see
that
how they
A's
are,
team.
because
Yeah.
I think that they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to
it's-
say things are
yeah.
trending are trending.
Yeah,
in
I'd
the right
say give them
direction.
another year, and then you can start putting them in potential surprise playoff contenders.
Agreed. Moving on to the American League Central now. Once again, I think this is another division where we're all in agreement. I've got the Tigers.
Yeah, I got the
Matt's got
Tigers.
the Tigers. Joe,
Yeah,
Tigers.
this is going to be the biggest landslide in any division in baseball. There's no one even close to the Tigers. And by the way, they're getting Victor Martinez back. Who,
Exactly. Right.
Before he got hurt, is a 300 hitter that knocked in 100 runs a year.
Yep.
I mean, how are you going to compete with Detroit this year? Not to mention
Four-win-a-year
their
line.
top 4 of their rotation is nuts.
dangerous.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Verlander,
Scherzer,
Scherzer,
and Sanchez.
Pfister, Sanchez, and
And Porcello, I think, is going to be their fifth.
yeah, Porcello. Although I hear they're trying to move Porcello, they might end up trying to
Well,
ditch him.
they have Smiley
Yeah,
there,
and
too.
try Smiley or something
Well,
like that.
but
for
it doesn't
5.
matter. It really
Exactly. It doesn't matter who they could throw me out there in the 5th day, and they would still run away with the
All
Central.
right, I will say this. Yeah, I do think the Tigers are probably the best team in the Central. My main concern is with the bullpen, because they did have a bit of a weak bullpen last year.
Not about Birdie fan.
Well,
Yeah.
but also they got this guy closing now who's never pitched
Yeah,
above Double-A. Which,
Bruce Rondon.
hey, it could work out great. It could work out not so great.
Yeah, but that's the only biggest question mark. Other than that, I don't really see any of the other teams in the Central really taking over the
Well,
Tigers.
real quick, Indians. What are your thoughts on them? Because they made a couple of moves.
I don't know.
They're a little
It's-
improved. Fourth place.
Yeah,
Fourth,
I don't know.
I
go a little
I like the
higher.
Royals.
Yeah.
I love the Royals this year.
Yeah, I do like the Royals.
And I like the White Sox enough. The White Sox and Indians could flip in third
Yeah,
and
I'd
fourth.
see like
That could be a
third or
race
something.
to watch.
Nice.
Anyway, moving
Exciting.
on to the most exciting division in baseball, the American League East, where literally I've seen predictions where all 5 teams
Yeah.
have been picked
Yeah,
to make the
this
playoffs.
is-
There's so much competition in this league, but it looks like we're all in agreement. It's going to be probably the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and with the Blue Jays, they want a big spending spree, getting pretty much, I guess, half of last year's Marlins team.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Reyes, Josh Johnson, Burley,
Burley, yep.
Bonifacio.
They had John Buck back for
John
about
Buck.
2 weeks.
Yeah, they got R.A. Dickey, last year's Cy Young winner. They got
Oh, yeah. They've also not only got half of last year's Marlins team, they've got 2/3 of 2 years ago's Mets team. They got Dickey, both of the Mets catchers
Tolley.
from last year, Tolley and Nikias, and also Jose
and
Reyes.
they're also going to be looking getting Batista back from injuries. This was like even last year I
Full
thought this
season out
was
of Brett Lowry.
But yeah, who's also
not
he's
necessarily.
getting
Starting the
maybe.
season
not
with the
starting the
Yankees.
season, but
Well,
this,
more full season.
this was a team that's been moving closer and closer to contention. I thought last year might have been the year that they might have been like a surprise pick, but they struggled a lot with injuries. Like seemed like everyone on the team was injured, but I think
Yep.
they got a better rotation because Ricky Romero was
Yeah.
terrible last year.
Well,
but he's,
I love their rotation. It's
I'm not sold on it.
Yeah.
you're not sold
I'm
on
not, I'm
Dickey,
not.
Josh Johnson.
No, I think that they're all guys
Burley,
that have the
Morrow,
potential to be very good,
and
but I don't
Romero.
know. They're not. They're kind of underachievers, other than Dickey.
and even for him, you got a
I'm
big
not
question
sold on
mark.
Josh Johnson bouncing back because last
He
year
had a very nice year last year.
He was not as
He had
good
a
as he
very-
should have
but
been.
He wasn't
And
as good as he
Romero
was
awful,
before, but he was still a very good
And
pitcher.
Burley is
well,
overrated.
Romero, fifth year, fifth starter, like we just said with the Tigers. It's a fifth starter. You can always.
I
they're
like
a
the fact
dime
that
a
he's
dozen.
down in that rotation, but
Um,
their lineup is very. And you
Yeah,
guys
it's-
didn't even mention Melky Cabrera, who you don't know what
Well,
you're going to get
yeah,
from him coming
well.
off the steroids, but you know, I mean, he's
That was a
still
bit of an enhanced,
got the- it was
enhanced performance last year.
but he's still. You could make the argument he's got the ability.
Perhaps. I mean, he was all right with the Yankees a couple of years ago, so perhaps maybe he can recapture that
Maybe.
magic
We'll
back
see.
in the American League East. And our final AL prediction: the wild card. Who's
right.
your wild card teams? The 2 of them.
all right, mine was the Rays. I figure the Rays are another really strong team. They got David Price last year, Cy Young winner. Did lose a bit of offense with. They did lose B.J. Upton, who I don't know. He's not really the biggest.
But they got Will Myers.
They did get Will Myers,
Will Myers.
and I don't think he's going to start the season with them. They're going to, because of this financial situation in Tampa, they're going to try to extend his arbitration eligibility. But I do think eventually he will make it up there, and when he does, you better watch out. And again, behind Price, you also got some really good young pitchers with Matt Moore, Hellickson, Alex Cobb.
Alex Cobb is going to be
He's gonna-
very good this year.
Yes, and then a bit of a surprise pick.
Is Archer going to be with them or no?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
'Cause I've heard he might go down.
Yeah,
Right,
they
and
like
then-
conserving those young talents. You know?
But they're able to produce so many
Yeah.
of them every year. It's like they're calling up a different guy who's, he's going to be the big stud pitcher now. I'm like, oh, well, that was like Matt Garza 3 years
Yep.
ago.
Well, yeah, and
Yep.
you have the A's.
And I have the A's. It was tough between the Rangers and the A's. I figured it was going to be one of them from the West. And I went with the A's just because I figured the Rangers lost a lot of pieces. They missed out on Zach Greinke. They missed out on the Uptons. They lost Hamilton. They do have. I mean, needless to say, they definitely Rangers are still in position. They still got some good young talent. They got Yu Darvish coming for a second season. Jurickson Profar, probably the top prospect in the entire league.
Yep.
Will probably be coming eventually. Mike Holt.
Yeah, well, Olt's an interesting case.
thing-
He's
Yeah.
a 24-year-old down
Yeah,
in
and
Double A. I
he's
don't
a-
know how
sure,
high I
he's a
can
third
say
baseman,
that.
Profar's a middle infielder. I mean, where are these guys fitting into the team? That's my concern I
Yeah.
have with the Rangers is that
Yeah.
they're kind of not well constructed.
Yeah.
I don't have the Rangers in my playoffs. I like the fact that you don't either.
Yeah.
I have the Rays. I really love the rotation for the Rays. They lost Shields, but Moore and
Yep.
Hellickson and Alex Cobb is my pick
Yep.
for. I don't know. Is he considered a rookie this year?
How many games?
If he were to be considered a rookie, he'd be my pick for rookie of the
be your
year.
pick?
But I think he's going to be really, really good. He's going to surprise a lot of people this year. And their lineup is always decent. It's not usually great, but they usually don't
Yeah.
need it to be. And I think that they have probably the best rotation in the American League East, and I got the Yankees, who I think is the second best rotation in the American League East. And I made my arguments for the Yankees before, so I'll leave it at that. But I really do like. I think that the Yankees have an opportunity to sneak into the playoffs this year, though I don't think they'll do any damage once they're there.
Yeah. Well, like you, I've got 2 AL East teams going into the playoffs. I've got the Rays, like the rest of us, and I got the Baltimore Orioles. Now, the Orioles are an interesting case. They were a team that overachieved quite a bit last year.
Yes.
And there's no denying that. They were not probably a good enough team to deserve to go as far in the playoffs as they did. That being said, I think that they could do it again this year, mostly because they're a little bit better this year. You're going to have Manny Machado, who I've got a big crush on Manny Machado.
Really?
I've got a man crush on him. So I find it hard to pick against him. Another year of experience. You've heard the things thousands of times. Well, Buck Showalter's a manager that likes to win. Like there's one that doesn't like to win. But I think he is a very good manager. He knows what he's doing. And if the Orioles can stay healthy and they can get their pitching situation
Yeah,
under
that's
control. They have a very volatile pitching situation. Who knows? Manis.
I'm not
Britton,
a big
I feel like
Orioles
got
guy. I'm not. Well, we talked about it before. How the foreign guys coming in could have a good rookie year and then fall off. You could see that from Wei and Chen. I like Hamill, but is he a number 1?
No, absolutely not.
I don't like their rotation. I think that's going to be their downfall.
That's the big issue, especially with when you got good rotations with the Rays and the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I mean, I could easily see that, we've said this a couple times of, teams flipping back and forth. The Orioles and the Yankees kind of trading spots if, things work out well for the Yankees. But the second wild card is going to come out of the East just because there's too many good teams. And there's not much
It's not going to come out
else.
of the Central, I'll tell you that.
No, it's not coming out of the Central. Really, the A's are the only other team that could possibly challenge an East team for that second wild card spot. And as of right now, with the Yankees' injury situation the way it is, them going into the season with Juan Rivera being their first baseman, well, that troubles me a little bit. I don't know if the pitching will be enough to make up for some of those offensive deficiencies that the Yankees have. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. World Series predictions after this. All right, welcome back. We've got one last thing to get through here, and that is our World Series predictions. Matt, why don't we start with you? What are your teams? Who's winning and why?
All right. Well, for my pick, I think out of the AL is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays.
Okay.
And from the NL, I am going with the Washington Nationals. If it's kind of a shame that Montreal then would be in all Canada World Series, but that's the way it goes. For the actual World Series, I'm going with the Nationals over the Blue Jays, just because I figure the Nationals are a more complete team. Their rotation I do think the rotation is stronger, and their bullpen is also a lot stronger. I've had a lot of questions about the Blue Jays bullpen as well. I think they got Casey Janssen as their closer.
They have Casey Janssen, and I believe they also brought in Sergio Santos.
Yeah, I think Santos was there last year, but for that,
He was hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt.
Yeah.
But I figure that the Nationals pitching is a lot stronger than the Blue Jays pitching. I figure that old adage, pitching wins championships. So I'm thinking it's going to be a good time in Washington.
If pitching wins championships, Detroit's going to win.
Yeah.
I have Detroit beating Washington. By the way, it's going to be real weird if the Blue Jays do make a playoff run to see playoff games being played in the Rogers or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
for like the
called
first
now.
time.
It'll be like 93 all over.
93 all over again.
I just can't picture it right now. But I have Detroit beating Detroit returning to the World Series, this time winning over Washington. I've stated my reasons why I like both teams. I just think Detroit's rotation is way too good, and those middle three in that lineup, having to go through that 3-4 times a game is going to be really difficult. And no one else in the league has a middle three, other than maybe the Angels, like that.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you guys. I say it's going to be from the American League, the Angels, and from the National League, the Atlanta Braves.
Okay.
Neither of you two are very high on the Braves this year, at least not nearly as high as I am. But the reason why I've got the Angels in there is mostly just because of their lineup, and I think their pitching is good enough to kind of get them past Detroit. And for the Braves, it comes down to the bullpen. Like I said before, their starting rotation might not be able to go toe for toe. They might be able to, if they can kind of turn it on in the playoffs. But, it's nothing special. But once it becomes a battle of the bullpens, it's Atlanta. And there's no one that can touch the depth and the talent in the Atlanta bullpen. And that's why I've got them going all the way, defeating the Angels in 6 or 7 games.
Right.
Yeah, I figure that with the Braves, depending on how the standings go about, if Washington does finish first, I could see the Braves going to the NLCS, depending on if they face Washington in the division series or not. I just figure Washington's offense and rotation is just stronger than Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Lions Lineup. If you'd like to get involved with Lion Television, email us at ltv.tcnj.edu. For Matt Merton, Joe Caputo, and all of us here at LTV, I'm Joe Vasile. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Lions Lineup.